Hello, everybody. My name is Gregory Parks. Welcome to CVG-TV, and you are watching ConLink. With me today is one of our guests of honor for CONvergence 2025. We have a fantasy author, singer, songwriter, poet, game designer, and author of recent book, Twice Drowned Saint. Please welcome C.S.E. Cooney. Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Hello, thank you. I want to say my most recent book that was just out last month is called Saint Death's Herald, but the word saint is in the title. So Twice Drowned Saint was a couple years ago, but I still love it.
So is this part of a series? Is it like a follow-up, or is it just that it has the word in common?
Well, Saint Death's Herald and the first one is Saint Death's Daughter. Both have the word saint in it, and they are part of a series. The Twice Drowned Saint was a total other thing. I blame it on kind of growing up Catholic, and then as I became more and more atheist, still just stealing everything I could from my childhood, and redefining it.
Yes, as a professionally lapsed Catholic, I also can identify with that. And I noticed your headband and many eyes, so you're like it's a biblically accurate headband.
I think the probably the eyeballs are the most biblically accurate part of the angels in the Twice Drowned Saint, who are awful, grotesque, evil, for the most part, monstrous beings. They killed their god several thousand years ago, and they're sort of the tyrants of the city and the desert. So that's what the Twice Drowned Saint is about. And there is an angel with a lot of eyeballs, but he's only one of 14 weird angels.
And so then what is the new series about? The latest book and its predecessor? What threads do those follow? What threads have you laid out for readers?
Well, the first one, Saint Death's Daughter, is about a young woman who grows up in a family of professional executioners and assassins. And, like some people grow up in a family of bakers or butchers or songwriters. And so she grows up in this very violent, where violence is sort of glamorized household. But she grows up with a powerful allergy to violence. Like, if you bring a severed head within her purview, she will projectile vomit against the wall. She's considered very weak and vulnerable, but what the family knows that historically, if you have this allergy and if you survive it, then you'll grow up to have such an aversion to death and violence that you'll be able to raise the dead. So they know she has the potential to be a necromancer. And historically, necromancers are so in love with death that eventually they'll start making sure people die just so that they can resurrect them. And then they love the dead and the undead more than the living. So Lainey, my character, she grows up in this situation where she's told all these things about what's expected of her, and what magic is and what her family duty is, and all of these terrible and macabre things that she actually has to unlearn and learn about found family, about what her actual vocation is, what her devotion is to her beautiful god of death, who is just so gentle and wants her to live and not be in love with death. So she's like a balancing act. So the first book is a Bildungsroman where she's growing up, she's coming into her power, and she's facing some massive political machinations. And the second book, she's there. She's powerful. She's getting more powerful, but she has a very dangerous mission. So the second book's more of a quest book. If it were a movie, it'd be like a car chase novel. But since there are no cars in this world, she is on the back of an undead flying tiger rug, and she's with some buddies, and she's got to bring down a very dangerous ghost. So it's a totally different kind of plot and even narrative way of telling the story than the first book was, but it was fun to write.
Oh, wow, it sounds like it. You just describing it right now sounds like, number one, it sounds like nothing that I've ever heard.
I wanted to write a fantasy novel where the main character could not use violence to solve problems, because, I don't know, I'd not read a fantasy novel like that. And I wanted somebody whose kind of power is and there have been novels like this, but whose power is empathy and the ability to learn rather than I know this and I'm going to do this because this is the way to do it. She actually learns that she knows nothing and that she has to learn how to live in the real world real quickly after being sheltered and lied to most of her life.
God. Like, okay, so now, pardon my pauses, but I'm thinking like, which local bookstore would I be able to go to pick that up at?
Any of them, I hope, or at least order it.
Yeah, right?
But you know what? The library could also have it, and you could get it from the
Exactly.
library if you wanted.
Libraries are beautiful things. They are. And also adult book fairs, those are things now too.
Yeah, and CONvergence is going to have copies, so if you're going to be there.
How convenient. CONvergence will have copies of your books. Great idea. So anybody who would want to check out those books would be able to buy them at CONvergence.
Yes,
So,
well, I wouldn't object.
Speaking of that, so you worked, if I may jump around for a bit, you co-designed a game with Carlos Hernandez, your spouse.
Yes.
And he was a guest of honor last year.
Wasn't he adorable?
He was great.
So
he was
great.
marvelous to meet. He was marvelous to interview, and the con attendees just seemed to really love him, and he loved them. It was marvelous.
Yes, he's so beautiful and smart and wonderful.
So with this year's theme, overall arching theme, being gaming, would you have an opportunity for people to sample the game? Will you be running any games?
I do believe that Carlos will be, hopefully I will be able to be in some of them, but I know Carlos will be running our game Negocios Infernales, I think at least twice. And we are going to do one Infernal Salon, which uses one of the game mechanics to do writing prompts or artist prompts for people. So Negocios Infernales is a GM-less, diceless tabletop role-playing game that is collaborative and uses this deck of cards, 70 spooky, cool, weird, macabre cards with weird sayings on them. So like a one card would be like, say it's a dragon with a spear in its eye just bleeding out on a pile of gold. And then the weird saying would be, even dragons are murdered for their gold. Well, if you draw that card for your character creation and you have to say, what's your character's motivation? That would be that card would inspire your motivation for your character. So it's how we do character creation. It's how we do relationships between characters, world building, plot decisions, and then when you're role playing, if you get stuck and you just need extra inspiration, you could draw a card and it would guide role play.
So it's like a collaborative. It's a collaborative game.
Yes.
Collaborative storytelling game.
Yes. That's sort of based in a world very much like ours during something like the Spanish Inquisition. The country's called Espada. The ruler, Reina Resoluta, is about to sign religious prosecution into law when suddenly aliens teleport into her throne room, and they were like, no, human, do not do another genocide. We will give you phenomenal cosmic powers if you will just, ixnay on the genocide, Jay. And the queen is like, you will give us phenomenal cosmic powers in exchange for our immortal souls? And they're like, it's not really what we meant, but sure. So the queen has mistaken these aliens for devils, and she basically makes a devil's bargain, an infernal bargain for these alien tech and like cosmic consciousness powers. But it's this game of cosmic irony because she thinks devils and the aliens just want to help humanity. And you're playing one of the wizards in her court who's exchanged their soul for a certain kind of power, and then shenanigans ensue.
And hence the name
Yes.
of the game. I hope that I will have the time to check it out myself, but I also hope that many of our con goers will take advantage of this opportunity to learn more about the game and to play it.
We would love that so much. And sometimes we run virtual ones as well. Carlos has set up something on Roll20 so that, if you miss a time to play, but it looks interesting and you want to, just contact us and say, I have a bunch of role-playing friends. We can do about 5 people per game, and we'll set up a game for you.
So how does that connect in with your Twitch stream and your work on Twitch? You have a Twitch channel.
Yes.
And so what sort of things are you doing on that Twitch channel? I noticed there were some like interviews or chats with other creatives, and you just mentioned the Roll20 and the gaming. What other things are you doing with your Twitch presence?
It's like a slow roll right now. I was trying to this earlier this year. I'm like, I'm going to commit to reading a chapter or two of my novella, one of the novellas from my collection, Dark Breakers. And we'll see. Can I commit to doing that every Tuesday? Well, I could until I got 6 audiobooks to record in a row, and then I was like, well, I can't record anything on Tuesday mornings anymore for at least a month and a half. It's now like 2 months. But so Carlos and I, we were talking about what we could do together, and one of the things we are running is a show called Fiction Impossible, where every month we talk to a fiction writer who's had a book out recently, and we talk to them about their favorite stories they've read recently, games they've played recently. Then they read an excerpt from their novel, and we kind of put the spotlight on them. So tomorrow night is Mary Soon Lee. She's a grandmaster of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Poetry Association, and she's written a novel-length poem called Sign of the Dragon, and that is basically, you know how like Beowulf is this epic and it's in verse. Well, she's done the same thing, but every poem is like from a different point of view, or it might be the story of the king, this king, maybe the king of dragons. I haven't finished it yet. The first poem is when he and his wife are talking quietly about his origins, and then the second poem might be the story of a baby being born, on a winter night, and the third poem might be when the young king first comes into his power, the soldier's point of view about him, who is not sure that this king is going to do, but the king offered him a glass of water after standing watch all night. And so you're getting all of these beautiful poems that are going to build this novel. Anyway, I'm so excited to talk to her about it.
Oh, cool.
And we like we stream the Infernal Salon that we're going to run at CONvergence, where we give people card prompts from our deck of destiny, and we set a timer for 20 minutes. Everybody writes and everybody shares. So we do those. We run games, and we keep developing games. So hopefully, as we develop more games, we will play test them and just have a fun time. We're hoping that the stream channel can be very flexible and fun, and eventually more consistent than how I've managed so far. But I'm just starting.
Well, life happens on its own terms, on its own timeline, and it kind of gets in the way of other things, and it's just rolling with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to have it because our friend Greg, Dr. Greg Wilson, another fantasy writer, another professor, and a beautiful DM, and we were on his actual actual play for a D&D game called Hearthglow for the last year, and that just wrapped up. But he's got a very solid and consistent Twitch stream, so we were always tugging on his sleeve. Greg, can we do an Infernal Salon, or can we run Negocios Infernales on your stream? He was always so nice about it. But it's nice to have our own space to do these things. And in June, we're planning to get a bunch of poets together and maybe do a charity event so that to support World Central Kitchen, which is doing so much important work to feed people. And if we little poets can put our little voices toward a bigger cause, that's what we hope to do.
That sounds marvelous. All of that. And I enjoy hearing your energy and your excitement about it. And you have so many things that you engage in, so many ways that you engage with art and creating and enjoyment. And which one of those, or any one of those, came into your life first? And then how did you collect the others? How did you build up that creative snowball?
Well, I feel like theater and writing were like my two biggest loves from a very young age. And in my head as a child, I was going to be a Broadway star and like a novelist who'd have 3 novels out every year. And that was my idea. And I went to an arts high school and I went to an arts college. And then I made $10 an hour for the next 10 years at bookstore jobs or things that I loved, or like selling tickets in an aquarium because I wanted to do art rather than make money. So it's like, go to the food bank, try to pay your bills, try to pay off college and write as much as possible and be in some theater. And eventually I was like trying to look into audiobook making. And so I would, everybody who was remotely connected with audiobooks said like, how do you do it? And they were all very cagey about it. And what I learned much later was that because there's no one way to do it easily, it's like sometimes it's a matter of who you know, how much you've worked, what time of year it is, like who's connected. It's not, you can't tell somebody how to do it. You could say, you could take lessons with audiobook narrators, you could go to audiobook conventions, you could try to do it these ways, but I certainly fell into it. I had done some theater. I had done a lot of podcasts for free, like small SFF magazines and presses as they released their issues. It was just when they were starting to release podcasts of their short fiction and poetry. So I'd either do that for free or for not very much money. But I had built up that way a small resume so that when suddenly I had a chance to audition for an audiobook company, I actually had something besides my college degree that I could point to, and then auditioned and kind of came into it that way, which was super lucky, and then suddenly I was an audiobook narrator. So in my whole life of wanting to be an actor, this is like the kind of path that it took, that I got to be a voice actor, but specifically an audiobook narrator, and that I would write my own books on the side or simultaneously, because audiobook narration is independent contracting. So sometimes you get 6 in a row and then there's 6 months and you get nothing. But that's good when you have a deadline for a novel and that's due in 3 months, It's much better to be at home writing at those times. As far as poetry, poetry has always been with me concurrently. And then for a while I wasn't writing it, but I was living in a town, Westerly, Rhode Island, for 5 years where it's all musicians all the time. And I think I just wanted to fit in. So I was like, I'll write some music. And that was more, just sort of like mimetic. And I just wrote folk songy kinds of things, but with mythic or SFF elements. And that's where my music writing started. And thankfully, I don't play an instrument, I just sing. So I was doing this all a cappella, but I have a brother who's an incredible guitar player. I have another brother who's a rapper, and Carlos plays the ukulele. And I'm just like, hey, you can play 5 chords in the ukulele. All my songs only have 5 chords in them or less. So then we started playing at conventions together, and that's been delightful.
Oh, cool. So you play. So we do happen to have something called HarmCon, Harmonic Convergence, at our convention. Is there any chance that you and Carlos might be able to might choose to perform a little set together?
Not only that, they gave me a whole concert, a Brimstone. I call myself Brimstone Rhine when I'm singing because I just thought that's a good fake rock star name, is Brimstone Rhine. And so Carlos definitely will be ukuleleing it up with me on our little concert set that we do. But not only that, is that I have Filk friends now, among them the illustrious Dr. Mary Crowell, who is like a goddess among Filk circles, and my friend Tina Connolly, who's also an SFF writer. And we've been working on a musical theater podcast for several years, like 6 episodes, called The Devil and Lady Midnight. And we get to do a concert that is half like kind of telling what the episodes are, like talking out the plot and then interspersing it with songs. But you'll be the first people to hear that music publicly. So we're so excited to have that ready for you.
What a treat. Thank you. Amazing.
Well, thanks for letting us. We're so excited.
Oh, thank you both for doing it. And because it's also really cool that Carlos is going to be attending with you. Now, he attended last year.
Because he's a darling.
What has he told you about CONvergence, and what are you looking forward to based on what he's told you and based on what you've learned?
Well, I went as his arm candy last year, so I've seen it firsthand.
Oh, okay,
But what we were both told before we went last year was from Amal Elmotar, who's one of your previous guests of honor and one of our
like 2
dearest.
or 3 years ago.
Yeah, she's one of our dearest and oldest friends, and she was like, CONvergence set the bar for all cons that came after it, and very few cons have ever surpassed it or even come level. And so we were like, wow, that's a really big thing for Amal to say, who's been to every con ever. And then Carlos went, and we went, and Carlos was like, oh my God, it's true. And it was we thought it was so warm and so friendly and so uncannily well organized. And I was like, this level of organization requires legacy. This is not something people can just put together, even if they've been doing it for years. We go to a lot of cons. So I started asking, what's the legacy of your organization? And they're like, the Renaissance Festival and the military. And I was like, oh, so your organizers have a lot of powerful history of organization behind them. And it's just it's like a well-oiled machine from the outsider's perspective. I'm not sure what it's like on the inside, but what I loved was the volunteers were like the best maitre d's at the finest restaurant in New York, where they were so proud to work where they were working because they knew that they were serving you the best food that you've ever had, and you'll probably never eat food like it again. And it was their honor and privilege to be the best experience in cuisine that you've ever had. And that's what like the volunteer corps felt like to me, that they were just shining with joy in their work and knew they were doing a splendid job and were so proud of it. And it was very moving.
Thank you for such glowing words. Thank you. And so then I would just like to amend, welcome back.
Oh, thank you.
CONvergence, but this time as a guest of honor. And Carlos gets to be your arm candy this year.
I know, he's so good at it.
just two highly charismatic people. It'll be great to have you both back.
We're so excited.
One last question.
Sure.
What are a couple of your favorite fandoms?
Oh my gosh, what do I love? Well, speaking of Amal, I have loved watching This Is How You Lose the Time War gain this unconquerable army of fandoms and then explode into even more fame after an infamous tweeter tweeted that people should read it, and then that tweet went viral and everything just like fireworks out from there. So I have really enjoyed watching that. Let's see, I'm trying to think of like fandoms I participate in. I love watching the Studio Ghibli crowd. You know what though? Okay, now I love all the different fandoms I've encountered, but I think that the closest one I'm closest to is the Critical Role fandom, the Critters, because we started watching, I think in 2019, and we've now watched most of the things. We've watched their fame grow. We've watched their kind of goodness and outreach grow. And several of our friends have now written novels. My buddy Cassandra Kaw wrote the Laudanum novel. My friend Marty Cahill was involved in their Weapons anthology. And it's like, so I have friends who have, and our friend Zach Clay recently DM'd for them. And so I feel like, because I know people who have had firsthand knowledge and who echo what you feel, like you hope that they're good people and you think they're brilliant and wonderful, and then you have people who've met them say, yeah, it's actually true. That just makes me so happy. And the energy in a room, of any room they perform in, is so wildly happy and yet so good. There just feels like such kindness, and I kind of melt around that. I think it's so beautiful.
That's amazing to hear. Well, thank you for your time spending with us today, and we look forward to seeing you at CONvergence in a few weeks.
Oh, thanks, Greg. Thanks for your interview.
And thank all of you for joining us again for ConLink. My name is Gregory Parks. We'll see you on the next one.